you keep an inner ledger of your money mistakes, and it is meticulous. You can recall the exact ones, the dollar figures, the way you felt sick that night. Think about the last time you made a money mistake. You're not trying to become a woman who never gets it wrong. You're becoming a woman who trusts herself to handle it when she does. It's not that you're bad with money, it's that somewhere along the way, money started to feel like danger. And babe, this is so important. That is not a character flaw. That is a wound. And you do not fix a wound by reading about wounds. And you definitely don't fix it by shaming it. You don't build trust with a person by reading about them. You build it because they kept one small promise and then another. That's the whole game, babe. Every time you catch yourself reaching to save another inspiring post, to read one more thing, to research a little bit more before you act, I want you to stop and ask yourself honestly, am I missing information or am I missing trust? Welcome to Rich and Regulated, where women learn to build wealth in alignment and flow. I'm Jessica Soul. For over a decade, I've helped women create the lives of their dreams, and here I'll share how I build wealth, fast-track results, and reveal money truths that will blow your mind. Let's get wealthy. Babe, I want to start somewhere a little bit uncomfortable today, and that is in your phone. So you know that folder that you have, the one called Saved or the one called Future Me. Maybe it doesn't have a name. It's just that quiet little graveyard of things that you're going to do one day. There's the reel about setting up a wallet, the post about the woman who left her job and never looked back, the thread that you screenshotted at 11 o'clock at night that explained the thing you've been meaning to understand for the last 2 years, the course you've saved, the videos you've saved, the I'll come back to this you've saved. And here's what I really want to talk to you about today. It's not the folder. It's what happens in your body when you scroll past it. There's that little drop in your stomach, that tiny flinch. You see it out of the corner of your eye and something in you goes quiet and small. And it says, not today. And you keep scrolling and you keep telling yourself you'll get to it one day. And you and I both know that you've been telling yourself that for a long time. And babe, I see that folder. I really, really do. And I want to tell you something today that I wish somebody had sat down and told me years ago, because it would have saved me a decade of feeling like I was the problem. You don't have a money problem, babe. You have a trust problem, and nobody ever taught you the difference. So that folder is not full of money things you haven't learnt yet. It's actually full of evidence. Evidence you've quietly been collecting against yourself. Every saved post you didn't action becomes another little entry in a story you tell yourself about who you are. See, I never follow through. I'm not the kind of woman who does this. Other people get it. I freeze. And I want to gently take that story out of your hands today and show you what's actually underneath it. Because most people think the answer is more information, one more course, one more explanation, and then you'll feel ready. But really, the thing standing between you and the life you keep saving into a folder is not information at all. It's trust. And trust is built completely differently to the way that you've been trying to build it. So let me teach you the actual thing, which I call the trust gap. And the reason it's so sneaky, the reason it's kept some of the sharpest women I know stuck for years, is that it doesn't live in one place. It actually lives in three. And until you can see all three, you'll keep treating a trust wound like it's a knowledge gap, and it will never, ever close. And here's the real reason why you're stuck. The trust gap lives in three places, and you've been trying to fix it in the wrong one. So let's go through them. The first one is trusting in yourself. Now, I want you to do something with me. I want you to think about the last time you made a money mistake. Maybe you bought the asset at the top and watched it fall. Maybe you sold in a panic and then watched it climb. Maybe you just sat on the sidelines and missed out on something and you've never quite forgiven yourself for it. And I want you to notice how available that memory is, how fast it comes up. Babe, you keep an inner ledger of your money mistakes, and it is meticulous. You can recall the exact ones, the dollar figures, the way you felt sick that night. And here's what I want you to really sit with. You don't keep a ledger like that for anything else in your life. Think about learning to drive. You stalled the car, you probably clipped a gutter or two, you sat at a roundabout absolutely terrified while someone was honking behind you. Nobody, including you, decided you were just bad at driving and you should never touch a steering wheel again. What you did is you let yourself be a beginner. Or think about becoming a mother. For those of you who are, nobody hands you a baby knowing what they're doing, right? You learned in the middle of the night, exhausted, getting it wrong, figuring it out as you went. And you let yourself be a beginner at the single most important job there is. You let yourself be a beginner at everything that's mattered in your life so far. Everything except money. With money, the very first stumble got filed as a verdict. Not I'm learning, but I'm not good with this. This isn't for me. And so the work here is not what you think it is. The work is not to go and finally learn enough to deserve to trust yourself. The work is actually to update the story that you're telling yourself. To go back to that ledger and reclassify every single entry. That wasn't a failure, babe. That was tuition. That was you, a beginner, learning. Same as the roundabout, same as the 3 a.m. feeds. Now, the second place the trust gap lives is deeper, and it's the one almost nobody talks about. And this is trust in your own safety. So have you ever had a big month in business, like a genuinely good month? Money came in, probably more than usual, and you felt that little flutter of, okay, here we go, things are turning. And then somehow, mysteriously, by the end of the month, all that money was just gone. Not on anything you can even really point to. It just evaporated. And you stood there going, where did that go? How am I back here again? And I want to tell you what is actually happening because it will change how you see yourself. Your nervous system, the deep old part of your brain that's just trying to keep you alive, has learned somewhere along the line to read money as danger. Maybe you grew up watching money cause fights at the kitchen table. Maybe there was a time where there genuinely wasn't enough and your body still remembers the fear of that. So when a big amount of money lands, you don't feel safe. You actually feel exposed. And your body does what bodies do with a threat. It discharges it. It gets rid of the thing that's making it feel unsafe so it can go back to the level it knows how to survive at. And it's not that you're bad with money, it's that somewhere along the way, money started to feel like danger. And babe, this is so important. That is not a character flaw. That is a wound. And you do not fix a wound by reading about wounds. And you definitely don't fix it by shaming it. Wounds heal one way, with small, repeated evidence that this time it's safe. A little bit more held, a little bit kept, nothing dramatic, just your body learning. Drop by drop, that money can come and stay with you and will be okay. Just quickly, guys, if you're a woman who's earning well but still feels like your money isn't working for you, I can help. My Build Your Wealth portal is the perfect place to begin, and for less than $100 a month, I'll teach you the exact groundwork that has allowed me to create freedom for my family. Just hit the link in the show notes to connect into my community today. Now back to the episode. And the third place, this is the one you're probably nodding along to already because you're a sharp woman and you've been paying attention. So this trust is in the system. Look, I'm not going to sit here and tell you to trust the banks. I get it. You're probably a lot like me. You've watched what they do, you've read the news, you've seen the rules change to suit the people who write them, and you've felt that quiet certainty that the game is not exactly built for women like you. Your distrust of the system is not paranoia. It's actually pattern recognition. It's rational, and frankly, it's earned. But here is the trap, and this is such a quiet one. That distrust is correct, but it doesn't stay where you put it. It leaks. You start out not trusting the system, and somewhere along the way, it bleeds onto you, and you stop trusting yourself to do anything about it. So you freeze, and here is the bitter irony. By freezing, by doing nothing, where does all your money stay? Sitting right there, exactly where the system can reach it. The very thing you don't trust is the only thing currently holding everything you've got. So your distrust didn't actually protect you, it paralyzed you, and then it left you fully exposed to the thing you were afraid of in the first place. So those are the 3 trust gaps. Trust in yourself, trust in your safety, and trust in the system. And now I have to tell you about the thing that pretends to help and actually keeps you stuck. The information trap. Because what does a smart, capable, but slightly frozen woman do when she feels that gap? She reads, she saves, she researches, and she tells herself she's doing all of her due diligence. And it actually feels productive. So it's the most convincing trap of all. But I want you to be really honest with yourself for a second, because most of that reading isn't actually learning, it's hiding. It's a way of being near the thing without ever having to do the thing. It's standing at the edge of the pool, reading a very detailed book about swimming, right? And calling it training. And here's the cruel part. Every new piece of information that you take in, when you don't have underlying trust to act on it, doesn't actually make you feel more ready. It makes you feel more afraid, because now you can see even more ways your money could grow. More risk, more nuance, more, but what about this and what about that? The reading was supposed to close the gap, and what it's doing is widening it. So more information was never going to fix this problem, because you were never actually missing information. What you were missing was trust. And so how do we actually build it? Here's the mechanism. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. You build trust with money exactly the same you build trust with a person. So think about how trust came about with somebody in your life. Not because they sent you a long document explaining the reasons why they were trustworthy, right? You trusted them because they made a small promise, and then they kept it. And then they kept another and another. Tiny kept promises stacked up over time, until one day you realized you simply trusted them, and you couldn't even point to the moment that it happened. You don't build trust with a person by reading about them. You build it because they kept one small promise and then another. That's the whole game, babe. You build self-trust with money by making small promises to yourself and keeping them. Not a grand transformation, evidence. The promise might be, this week I set up one crypto wallet that I actually control with my own keys, where I hold a small amount that I have decided on with my whole heart. I'm okay to learn with that, right? That's it. That's one promise kept. And your nervous system files that away. She said she's going to do one small brave thing. She did it, and she's still here. The sky didn't fall. And you've just laid the first brick, because this is what's really going on under all of it. You think you're trying to acquire something out there, but the actual thing being built is who you become. You're not collecting coins. You're actually becoming a woman who keeps her word to herself about money. And once that woman exists, the money stuff gets so much simpler, because she trusts her own hands now. Now I can feel the obligation rising in you, because it rises in every woman I've ever talked to about this. You're thinking, but Jess, what if I lose money? What if I do the small brave thing and it goes down and I've proven myself right that I should have never touched it in the first place? So let me be really straight with you, and let me be honest the way I would want someone to be honest with me. Yes, you might lose. The market is volatile, and some months the spreadsheet looks beautiful and some months the spreadsheet blows up in the wrong direction. And anyone who tells you otherwise is selling you something I would never sell you, because there are never really fully 100% guaranteed returns, risk-free versions of this, and I am never going to tell you a number or a coin or this is going to make you money without a doubt, because that would be a huge hype call and I would never make that publicly. So you'd be right to fact check me on that one. But the tools, the strategies, the bots that myself and other people talk about, they're magic and they're volatile. They are tools that carry real risk, and they only ever belong in the hands of a woman with discipline, with stop losses, with money she's decided she can learn with. But here is the reframe, and I really need you to hear this. A small loss while you're learning is not the risk. That is tuition. You paid to learn to drive, and you'll pay to learn this too. And it is so much cheaper than the alternative. Losing a little bit of money while you learn isn't the risk. The risk is staying frozen for another 10 years, because here's what we don't count as a cost, but we really, really should. The real risk is sitting in that frozen place for another decade, scrolling past that folder of things to do, watching your money sit exactly where you don't trust it, and slowly becoming a woman who's decided that she's just not the type. That's the expensive one. That's the decision that compounds. And you're not trying to become some flawless woman who never gets a single call wrong, because she doesn't exist. I've never met her. You're not trying to become a woman who never gets it wrong. You're becoming a woman who trusts herself to handle it when she does. And that's the whole shift. From I need to be certain before I move to I trust myself to handle whatever happens when I move. And those are two completely different women living in two completely different realities. So let me give you this one thing to take home with you this week. One question. I want you to carry it around in your pocket. Every time you catch yourself reaching to save another inspiring post, to read one more thing, to research a little bit more before you act, I want you to stop and ask yourself honestly, am I missing information or am I missing trust? And babe, you already know the answer. Almost every single time, it's trust. It was always trust. And the beautiful thing is, trust isn't something you wait to feel. It's something you build, one small kept promise at a time, starting now. So here's where I want you to go and start building, because you should not be doing this alone, and you were actually never meant to. I run a free community called Crypto for Women. It's full of women exactly like you, sharp, capable, and a little bit done with being patronized, all learning to keep small promises to themselves out loud together. So come into the community. It is free, and the link is below in the show notes. So that can be your first kept promise this week. You said you're going to stop hiding, and you walk through the door. Because remember, babe, every choice is a decision. And babe, leaving it in the too hard basket, that's a decision too. And you've already been choosing. You've been choosing the folder instead of taking action. So this week, choose yourself instead. Make the small promise, keep it, and let your own body collect the evidence that you are, in fact, exactly the kind of woman who does this. The delusion that you can become her is actually not that delusional. It's the strategy. And all that discipline, all those tiny kept promises, that's the thing that leads you all the way to freedom. I'm Jessica Soul. This is Rich and Regulated, and I'll see you next episode. If you've gotten value from today's episode, make sure you subscribe and leave a 5-star review. And if you're ready for more support in building regulated wealth strategies, check out the link in the show notes. Have a beautiful day.